Hey guys, Philip Goodback here again. I am a relationship coach and an abuse recovery specialist. This video is a continuation of a series I'm doing in terms of recording each chapter of my book via video. So this is chapter 11 of the book entitled Ignited by the Bottle, Delivered by the Fist. It's basically sort of like a memoir of my early years, growing up with a lot of violence and volatility in my family. And then, of course, meeting the love of my life, my wife. She and I have been married for 48 and a half years now, and we have 4 children, 11 grandchildren, about to be 12. And we're both 72 years of age. We actually got married when we were 23, so a long time ago. So the title of this book, of this chapter, is My Love, My Eileen. So Eileen and I, we met at a place called Whitianga, actually at the Mercury Bay Motor Camp, which is on the east coast of New Zealand. So I'm a Kiwi, Eileen's a Kiwi as well. And during the summer holiday break, over the summer. So as it turned out, my parents and Eileen's parents would always go to Mercury Bay Motor Camp and have their caravan there, set it up in the same place year after year. And they go there before Christmas and stay there quite often to pretty much the end of January. And my parents, my dad and my grandfather, my dad's father used to spend a lot of time in Whitianga on the Coromandel Peninsula when my dad was young. And my grandfather and my father used to go pig hunting in the Coromandel Ranges to run right along right in the center of the coast either side, and the Coromandel Ranges in the middle. So they used to go pig hunting there and just get a lot of pigs, and they used to obviously camp out in Whitianga and Mercury Bay itself. And so they would frequent that a lot. And Eileen's parents, and in fact, Eileen's mother was actually born in Whitianga, and left and went elsewhere. But so Eileen's mother was born there, her grandmother was born there, and born and raised there as well. So a lot of roots down in Whitianga on the Coromandel Peninsula and Mercury Bay, guys. And so anyway, it just happened. It was a coincidence, and my parents just happened to be, because when I'll tell you the story. When my grandpa died, he had money invested in a business, like a carrying company and what do you call a depot, place where they used to get freight and goods, from the ships, store them, and then distribute them out to businesses and also residences as well via truck. So so that's what happened there. And so anyway, my parents were just happened to be holidaying, because when they inherited, my father inherited some money from the sale of that business I was just talking about. He used that to buy a brand new car, caravan, and boat. All right, all things that when you buy them go down in value. He never thought to invest in a section or something like that might go up in value. But it was all, it was Grandpa's money, and so he thought he'd buy things that he could obviously have some enjoyment out of life, which is fair enough. And that was his decision, my mother's decision at the time. So anyway, it just so happened that my parents had their caravan in the Mercury Bay Motor Camp, and they had theirs set up, and a bit further along, 2 or 3 caravans along in the corner, was Eileen's mum and dad with their caravan and all their setup and so on. I and my 2 brothers, we had been landscape contracting. We had a break from dairy farming and landscape contracting, and my 2 brothers, 2 younger brothers, both had small trucks, that we used them for, doing our landscaping and so on. So anyway, while we're doing that, we actually purchased a section. Myself and my brother, my next brother down, we bought a section each of Whitianga, just back from the beach, and my two younger brothers, they bought a section together, right? So we put a deposit on those sections and paid them off. So by the time we paid them off, they doubled in value type thing. So, but what we did was, when my parents were at Whitianga this particular summer, and Eileen's parents were too, my brothers and I, we were camping out on our sections, right? We had a long drop toilet. We had a little dinghy, which was a small boat. We used to row out and up the Whitianga River, estuary type thing, and we'd set a net and catch a lot of fish and stuff, and cook them over a campfire and that sort of thing. So, and it was quite funny. I'll just tell you a short story before I continue on. My brother Milton, he had his girlfriend staying down there at one point, and we'd been up early in the morning to check our net, where we just set a net, and we get a lot of fish that way. And we got some fish, and we brought them back. And before my brother Milton and his girlfriend woke up in their tent, we had fish cooking right on our little camp stove, and it was pretty rudimentary, pretty rugged. We were pretty rough and ready, us guys. And anyway, we'd had a feed of fish and fresh fish, and then Milton and his girlfriend at the time, Barbara, they appeared, and he said, "Oh, would you like a fish?" And we had snapper, we had carwai, we had gurnet, we had trevally, and she said, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't mind a trevally fish, for breakfast, like it was late between breakfast and lunch, brunch, I suppose you like to call it." Anyway, we picked up a fish out of the sack, and she said, "Oh, you like one of those?" And then we went to put this fish, because they're real fresh, right? We don't just pick them out of the net. So anyway, so I picked this fish up and put it on the hot plate, and Milton and my brother Milton and his girlfriend Barbara were sitting down around, and all of a sudden this fish, when I put it on the hot plate, it jumped up and jumped off. It was actually still partly alive. I didn't even realize that myself. And of course, at this commotion, Barbara, my brother's girlfriend, said, "Oh no, I don't want any fish, right? No, it's all good." But anyway, that's a little short story, a little side story. So anyway, because the thing is, with going to a summer holiday with my parents, it hardly, almost never happened, because I always leave school and go to a farm so I could earn money, go and stay on a farm, earning money, because I had board and lodging and being fed as well on a farm. So basically all my school holidays were spent on farms, earning money, working and earning money. So anyway, we were a landscape contract, like I said, and we had a bit of a break, so we thought we'd go to Whitianga, for a week or so, and then back into work, So, and anyway, so we were just over at Mum and Dad's caravan at one point, and because I had two young sisters. One of my sisters was 11 years younger than me, and the other one was 14 years younger than me. So at the time we were 22. And just so, as I was about to find out, Eileen was the same age, right? So anyway, we went over there to call over mother and father, and my two younger sisters, they would have been what, probably about seven and eight and 5, something like that. Something about 8 and 5, something along those lines. Yeah. And anyway, they were playing outside with two other girls in the camp, right? As we turned up, and so we went into Mum and Dad's caravan, and they had an awning there as well on the side of the caravan. So went in there and we're having a bit of a drink, having a cup of coffee or something, or a cup of tea or whatever. And all of a sudden, my sisters appeared, and they'll come in for something to eat or whatever. And then all of a sudden, this girl was walking from her caravan. And I didn't realize it was Eileen at that stage. She was a girl of 22, just walking. And she was walking across on the way to the camp kitchen from her parents' caravan and awning in the corner. So she had to walk past the caravan, my mum and dad's caravan, right, on the way to the kitchen, the camp kitchen. So she was walking on there with her two kid sisters, were the same age as my sisters, actually. So they'd just been playing, and they've been playing for a few days, got to know each other. And anyway, I saw this girl, and I said to my two sisters, I said, "Oh, wow, that girl, she looks a bit of all right." And my two sisters said, "Ooh, what are you saying? You liked her, or like the look of her?" And I said, "Oh yeah, she's not bad at all." And anyway, my two sisters went out and they caught up with Eileen's two young sisters, and they told the two sisters that my brother thinks that your sister is a bit of all right, right? So, and then Eileen's sisters told her, and Eileen said, "Is that right? Okay." So then, it led to us eventually getting together and having a bit of a yak together, and then we invited her over to the awning in my parents' place, for a game of cards. I think we were playing poker or 500 or something like that. I said, "We'd like to come over and have a game." She said, "Oh yeah, I'll come over." And, so came over, and we're playing cards there, and we're sitting in a little round table type thing, like a camp table and stuff, and pull the chairs up to the table and stuff. And anyway, Eileen was sitting directly opposite me, right, and I was just looking at her, and we were grinning at each other and smiling and so on. And anyway, over the course of a couple of games, this is in the evening, of course, after dinner, I put my feet under the table, and my feet actually touched hers, so, and all of a sudden she looked up at me, and I looked at her, but, "Oh," and of course afterwards she said, "Oh, I'm playing footsies," and that, and she said to me afterwards, because we actually went for a walk down the beach after the card games, and she said, "I was hoping that, the one playing footsies with me was you and not one of your younger brothers." So anyway, it went from there, and we really got to know each other and got together, and we had some really good talks, and one evening we went around to this beach. There's Buffalo Beach, which is Mercury Bay, and then there's another beach around from that called Simpsons Beach. So one evening, it was really in the evening. It was, the stars were out and stuff. So it was a moonlit night and stuff. So evening. So anyway, we decided to go around to Simpsons Beach and, lay on the beach and have a bit of a yak and start to get to know one another, And so we actually started sharing our stories, like, found out a bit about each other, we're inquiring, what was your childhood like? What were your teenage years like, growing up years? And what are you doing now and stuff? And what do you want to do? And all that sort of thing, doing all that investigatory, just finding out about each other, really. And I think I might have shared my story first, a bit about, the violence that I grew up with and the volatility and stuff like that. And the fight that I'd had with my dad when I was 17 and stuff. And the fact that, my father's alcohol, made him more violent, more out of control, and something that I said to Eileen at the time that I might have a stubby with my brothers, but that's it. I've never been drunk in my life. Never have now. I'm 72 years of age. Never been drunk once in my life. And I'll die that way as well. That's a promise I made to myself as a kid, and I've kept it. Anyway, so Eileen listened to my story, then she started sharing her story. And I'm not a guy, like I'm emotional, but back then found it hard. I wasn't in touch with my emotions. I was out of touch really, and I really had to almost like my emotions were like frozen, frozen, and so locked inside me, and the outer part of me was tough, because I was muscly and stuff, and I was a tough, strong guy. I've been a hard ass, and always was a hard ass rugby league and rugby player. Tackle guys half again as big as me and take them out of the game. Hit them so hard and stuff. I had no fear. So anyway, I was sitting there listening to Eileen's story, and it almost brought me to tears because she was telling me all about her father drinking and getting out of control. Her mother sort of like goading her father and stuff. To do different things, to discipline the kids. Like my wife Eileen was, my future wife Eileen was one of 6 children, 5 girls and 1 boy. The boy being Larry, the eldest, and then 5 girls. Eileen was the 3rd one down. So anyway, she told me about all these times that her father would get out of control. Basically, her mother would be goading and telling her to do something and discipline the kids, and he would have a bit of whiskey in that, and he'd get totally out of control and just totally blow. Like almost like a keg of dynamite, right? And the alcohol was like lighting the fuse, right? Lighting the fuse. And Eileen's mum would pump and pump and pump at him until with alcohol in him, he would just explode. And heaven help anybody was in the way. And Eileen told me one time she'd written this when she was younger, about 15 or 16. She'd written a letter to a boyfriend she had at the time, and her mother and father were asking what the hell she was doing. So she said, "Oh, nothing." Anyway, they saw the note there, and they tried to get the note from Eileen, and she actually rolled it up and put it in her mouth. And the father said, "Open your mouth. I want that paper." She said, "No, no, no, no." So when her father prized her mouth open and gouged out her note, and he had obviously dirt under his fingernails, and Eileen got a gum infection from that. She had to go and see an orthodontist. She had a terrible infection in the gums. And you know what? From that incident, she's always had issues and problems with her gums, right from that 15 years of age to now 72 as a result of that. And the other thing she told me, which really made me emotional, really, we both, telling our stories, we sort of both had tears welling up in our eyes, We were sort of like choked up with emotion. I was as well. But when the story she told me though, really got me choked up. And she said when she was 16, she was having words with her parents, and the mother was at her, and father was drinking whiskey and that, and then all of a sudden he exploded. He just totally lost it, and he started punching Eileen. And at one stage she was on her hands and knees, and he was beating her all over her back. when it ended that night and she got into bed, she'd almost had to crawl to a bed. She managed to pack a bag, and she swore to herself, "I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to leave here. I can't be in this house any longer. I've got to go. I've got to leave." At that time, she was 16 years of age. She just got her first job as with Waikato Times in display advertising for Waikato Times. So she was able to. She left school. She was looking after herself. She was getting a small wage. She decided, "I just can't stay here." And anyway, she packed her bag. And when it got dark, her parents were asleep. She opened the window. She crawled out the window, picked up her bag. She packed a few clothes in and crawled. She couldn't walk. She had beaten black and blue over her back. She crawled to a neighbour's place, spent the night there. And this particular neighbour called Eileen's best friend's parents to come and pick her up. So she went and stayed with them. And her best friend's father called the police. Eileen said, "I don't want to go back. I'm not going back home. I never want to go back home." So when the police arrived, they said, "Is there anything you need from your home?" And Eileen said, "Yes. I need my clothes, and a few of your shoes and things like that, my personal possessions." And they said, "Right, we'll ring your parents and we will escort you back to your home to get whatever you need, and we'll be there with you, and we won't let your parents lay a hand on you, say anything to you or anything. You get whatever you want, and you'll be under police escort, police guard, and then we'll leave." So that's what happened. And her father was at home at the time. You know what he said to Eileen? He said, "Never darken our doorstep again," meaning never ever come back here again. So that was that. Eileen went and lived with her best friend's parents for a while. Then she moved from Hamilton to Waikato, where her home was, up to Auckland, got a job up there with her best friend at the Auckland Star in display advertising. So she looked after herself. And sharing that story with me, I was gobsmacked. I was so upset for her. I just imagining a 16-year-old girl, and her father was a guy he was about 6'2", 6'3", and about 18 stone. A huge guy, a huge man, beating up on Eileen, a 16-year-old girl, on your own daughter, so much so that she couldn't walk. I just was shaking my head. I was just upset that I wasn't there to protect her, to stick up for her, because I was tough and I was strong. And I would have had her father on in a heartbeat. But you know what? When I met her at 22, she was telling me the story. She had gone to Australia when she was about 17, 18. Went to Australia, got a job with Rupert Murdoch's Cumberland newspapers in Sydney. And she got up the hierarchy. She was in charge of about 22, 23 women in the display advertising department of the Cumberland newspapers. And yeah, so she was telling me all these stories. And like I say, by the time we met at 22, she'd already forgiven her parents. She'd forgiven her dad. She'd forgiven her mum. And I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I just said, oh, but your parents don't deserve being forgiven. I couldn't understand how she could forgive her parents, but she did. And when I met her, she would tell the story, but she had this beautiful personality, out there personality. She was vivacious. She was just such a joy of life and living. It just, and the love she had in her heart, just like, it was almost like a ray of sunshine that came from her heart. When I saw her playing with her kid sisters, or walking with her two kid sisters, they were jumping with joy all around her. And I thought, wow, she was such a, like an older sister, but she was like such a motherly type of sister, And her sister, younger sister, obviously loved her, and obviously she loved her younger sisters as well so much. And I was just in awe of this person who had so much joy and love in her heart. Yet she's gone through so much tragedy as a teenager. And so at the end of the holiday period, because we were only there for a couple of weeks, my brothers and I had to get back to work, and so Eileen said my older sister Marion was pregnant and in Australia, and that Eileen said she was going back to Australia for 12 months to be there for Marion, her sister, which she was having her first baby, because apparently she was starting to have complications and she had to be hospitalized. And she was going back to care for her and be there for her. So that's what she did for 12 months. We met up again the next summer. But we did. She wrote a couple of letters to me in the meantime. I wrote one letter to her in that time. And we caught up again the next summer. So that's what my next video is going to be about, guys. The continuation, the ongoing story of meeting my love, my Eileen. Okay. Love you guys. Talk to you again soon. Bye now. Bye. Love you.